we're talking, we're talking generations, how to manage generations at work, the different generations we have, the differences that exist. How do you manage conversations amongst these generations? Without further ado, I'm just going to delve right into this, and we'll be starting by playing a montage, which is an introduction, and just to refresh our memory, because this is the first session we're having this year, 2023. So just to refresh our memory and hear some words from Coach Lara Yeku. Please just give me a few seconds to share my screen. Thank you. Okay.
I can share it.
Okay, please do, because I'm seeing some funny things here. Please do. Go ahead. Thanks.
How it all started. Hi there. I remember the early days of my career. I had a lot of questions. I experienced and navigated several crossroads at different points in my career life. I made several mistakes, and that's the honest truth. I failed, and I took some wrong decisions at some critical points in my career life. I wanted to be able to reach a mentor for guidance, but they were far away, not their fault. They were extremely busy, and when I met with them, I wished they could spend more time with me. Then I progressed in my career and watched young professionals go through same pains. My HR Storybook was created to bring life and career success principles to professionals through these three concepts. First, storytelling for relatability and authenticity. Second, mentoring on the go for accessibility and self-leadership. Third, collaboration for impact, growth, and opportunity to give for professional advancement. The mission has evolved from Storybook, I am so excited, into a live interactive series with several seasoned professionals across the world for more connection and to give opportunity for live pinpoint conversations. I know you've been enjoying the series so far. To get more, follow my social media handles, and if you're already following me, click on the link below for more exciting series. See you around.
Thank you once again. Welcome to my HR story. This is the first edition in 2023, and today we're talking about managing generations in the workplace. So we voted our conscience yesterday. Today we want to discuss how to end toxicity at work through creating connections. I think that all of us have one or two things to say about this topic, so we want it to be as engaging as possible. Please do us a favor, because we want to be able to manage your expectations as well. So please, in the chat box, write what your expectations are for today's session. What you really want to gain out of today's session. Please put that in the comment box, and we'll be reading that out with the two people anchoring today. A few house rules. Please, can I ask that we mute ourselves so that it doesn't disrupt the session as we go on? Thank you very much. We really appreciate that. We're saying that we want to manage in the workplace through creating connections across multiple generations in the workplace. I think it is very, very important, because in today's world, we always hear people talk about oh, these Gen Zs, that Gen Zs, they've done this, they've done that. But really, is it about values, or is it about, what exactly is it about? So those are the questions that are burning on everybody's minds. And I think that, today's session will be able to address some of those issues that we have. So please put your expectations in the comment box, in the chat box rather. I will be reading them just before we start the session. I'm now going to go straight into introducing the two people who are our guest speaker, and of course the convener of my HR story. So I'm going to be reading Coach Lara Yeku's bio, which is very short, by the way, the shortest I've seen in my whole existence. But in a nutshell, Coach Lara Yeku, known as CLY, is the author of My HR Storybook and the convener of the monthly HR Story Live monthly series. That's all she sent in as her bio. Now, I am also going to read Mr. Franklin Ali's short biography so that we have, a little bit of background around him. So please let me call that up and read that. So Ali Franklin is a seasoned HR professional with multiple industry experience across financial services, FMCG, oil and gas, and technology. He has been a recipient of several company awards and recognition due to his commitment of delivering outstanding results. He was HR BP at UBA PLC and HR generalist at Nest Oil, and then progressed to TGI as Senior Manager, Business Partnering and Talent Management. In 2019, he joined InterSwitch Group as Head, Organization and Talent Management, and is currently Chief Human Resources Officer. He has a demonstrated history of working in the consumer goods industry, financial services, and oil and gas, with over 10 years experience and knowledge in developing HR process reengineering and business partnering. Knowledge in developing and delivering talent management strategies and initiatives, OD and restructuring, HR process reengineering, and business partnering. He's particularly excited about and driven by the need to create superior value and the process around identifying, developing, placing, and aligning talents for business productivity. And I think when this topic was conceived by Coach Lara Yeku, one of the things that, one of the processes that she went through was who is best suited to, have this conversation with. And we thought, okay, Gen Z people are in the workplace now. In fact, some of them are becoming senior, part of management level and all of that. But we still do have different generations across the workplace. So we looked for a company that has a mix and with a lot of Gen Zs, and we came up with InterSwitch. So he was like the best candidate we thought of, that Kotara thought of to bring on board to have this conversation. So a warm welcome to Mr. Franklin Ali, Chief HR Officer, InterSwitch Group. And I'm now going to, let me see, I think we have some comments. Someone says, Tosin Agbola says, I hope to learn from the experience of others in handling challenges posed by all categories of employees in the workplace. Very important. So it's not limited to a particular generation. It is what the different generations want in the workplace. Good afternoon, all. This is from Nafia Abdullahi. I am here to learn from stories to be told so that I can understand how to manage employees in my organization. And I think those are the two expectations that we have. Let me just scroll through to the, okay, we have another one, Demola Obasan Kayode. Coach Lara, thank you for that book, The HR Story. The stories there inspired me to expand my horizon. Thank you very much for your comments. I'm just now going to hand over to Coach Lara Yeku and Mr. Franklin Ali to take us on today's session. Thank you very much.
Wow. The HR Madam, thank you so much for that. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to our first live series in 2023. I'm so delighted it's also the first time that I would have a friend join in the live series. I remember reaching out to Fumi a couple of weeks back when I was sharing my ideas with her in terms of what I was thinking, what the spirit was laying in my heart with regards to the topic and the speaker and everything. And then she said, I would like to join you in this session. And honestly, that really touched my heart because there's a quote that YF usually puts out, a part of his inspiration, that reads, do not share your tall dreams with dwarf, they will cut you to size. She was someone that when I shared the dream with her, she was able to think through it with me and also offered herself to be part of the HR story. So this is the first time we would have 3 people in my HR live series. And for me, I really want to appreciate you so much for your friendship. Honestly, what you're doing today in support of this vision touches my heart, and I can only pray that God continue to bless you. Thank you. So let's just go straight into today's session. Today's story is focused on connection in the workplace. I mean, I've heard a lot of professionals after interview sessions, they come and say, I like that candidate. I don't like that candidate. You're wondering, what has liking candidates got to do with getting the job? We'll get there. Sometimes you also go for networking events and there are people you meet and you guys just strike a connection immediately. And from there, the rapport builds on. You go to some places and one of the things that you use to connect with people are people who have been, maybe they're from the same ethnic area like yourself, or or you attended the same school, or you stay in the same area, or there's somebody you know that both of you can relate and connect with. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because when we talk about connections in the workplace, it's one of the major factors that helps us to build better rapport and better work relationship. People want to thrive in an environment where they're accepted, in an environment where they're acknowledged. And connection is one of the things that drives this within the workplace. So today we are really going to talk about this connection, especially when it comes to working with multi-generation in the workplace. And today we have our special guest, Franklin Ali. I remember when I met Franklin late last year, I think it was at a hotel. My company was at a hotel for a program, his company as well. And I think we just walked into one another. We just got talking and we exchanged cards and we connected. Frankly, we connected at our first conversation. And he made a comment, which I honestly didn't remember, but he reminded me last year when we met, said, Lara, we have a lot to do together in 2023. Honestly, between you and I didn't remember he made that comment until I reached out to him early this year and said, Franklin, I want us to talk about connection in the workplace. And you're somebody who came strongly to my mind because we've been having series of issues around toxic leadership. And I know that toxicity breeds when there is no connection. There's people in the workplace say, oh, my boss doesn't like me. Oh, she doesn't like me. Oh, there's favoritism in the workplace because somebody likes someone compared to the other people. And we cannot just but talk about why is connection really important in the workplace. So Franklin, I'd like you to share your story in terms of how has creating connections influenced your career progression of your career growth, especially given the fact that you have worked in different industries, from the banking to oil and gas, so what is the role that connection plays in helping you grow in your career? Over to you, Franklin. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Lara, just check in if you can hear me loud and clear. Okay.
Loud and clear.
Super. Thank you. So this is me contemplating whether, because I saw Fumi had her glasses on. You have yours. So should I wear mine so that we can complete the connection? Okay. It feels very quiet here, and it'll be nice to just, bubble the room, hear from a few people. I can see Praise Fadi. That name looks like something someone I've seen or heard from before. Um, with your permission, Lara, can I ask that people should just unmute and say hi, hello?
Sure,
Just imagine
sure.
we are in a hotel,
Absolutely.
sitting in the room. We just want to hear, just to
Absolutely.
be sure that people are not counting votes and joining this session from INEC office. Can I ask that we just unmute and say something again, just to create some level of connection? I can see Omene, I can see Temitope Oyadele. Can we just unmute very quickly? 1 minute, just say hi, hello.
Hello.
Just
Hi, good afternoon.
Good
Hi,
afternoon.
hi, hi, good
to
afternoon.
I'm
Hi.
counting the votes in my
Everybody
spirit, in my
connecting.
mind.
Hi everyone, I'm Nancy. Good afternoon.
uh, great stuff, great stuff, great stuff. I'll just give a few minutes just in case you're using some interesting network. So maybe your high will come in later. All right. Um, thank you, Lara, for having me. Just checking if I can go ahead. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, great. I will attempt to share my story. Lara touched on a very important point, which I think it's a good point of arrival as we go into the details of this conversation. Picking the conversation from the point of interview when you're about to get a job. When Fumi asked that we should drop comments, I saw someone comment around, I'm here to learn how to manage this generational diversity. Um, and I'm sure there's so many people here for different reasons. So the plan or the approach will be to attempt to touch on as many areas as possible, sharing stories, sharing some learnings, but also will be interesting to also hear from you what your experience has been. The topic before us says creating connections across multiple generation in the workplace, or if I may, in the marketplace, because sometimes it transcends beyond the workplace. Now, there are three keywords in that topic. One is connection, which I think Lara delved into very briefly. The other one is multiple generation, which a lot of us are familiar with, and that speaks to the different generation that's in the workplace. The last one is the workplace itself. So three keywords that we'll be touching on in trying to answer questions and also sharing some insights. So connection, multiple generation, and workplace. So those will be our three keywords for the purpose of this meeting. Now, there's something I'd like to say before we go further, and I would please ask that you indulge me. It's important to set the tone and to lay this foundation as we go into this conversation. Now, we need to understand both from an HR manager standpoint, an individual standpoint, or an organizational owner standpoint, that there is an order and system of justice that exists in the workplace. And you can almost argue that also exists in the marketplace. There is an order and there's a system of justice. And I'll explain very quickly. Now, in this system, what you find that the system exists across multiple generations, which today we call workforce groups, defined by age largely. So when people hear multiple generation or multiple workforce group, they think about age group. But what we need to understand today, that in addition to the classification by age, you also have this by grade, by gender, social and political interest. and in some cases, tribe and religious orientation. Now, I don't want to go to other extreme classification, but the point I'm making here is that the system we're in the workplace, there is an order and there's a justice system that is currently running. And again, like I said, I'll explain very quickly. It's important to note that the system does not just exist between you and your co-workers. It exists between you, your directors, your board, even your customers. Now, what is this system of justice? What is this order of justice? What you'll find is that from the moment, maybe I should start from where Lara, stopped. From the moment you start interviewing for a job, from the moment you start prospecting a customer, assessment and judgment has started from that point. In fact, before you even think about a job, when you go for programs, and Lara touched on it, when you go for HR conferences, HR events, people have started assessing one another. People are looking for, do I connect with this lady? Do I connect with this guy? So the system of justice that I speak to this afternoon is speaking to a continuous assessment and justice system, which means that you are constantly being judged on the go. You're constantly being assessed on the go. Now, why am I starting on this note? Because it's important so that you know that the type of connection that you establish or create, and I'm speaking directly to the topic, becomes very, very fundamental. Because you'll be judged and assessed on the go, on a daily, as you take on task, as you do jobs for your boss or your peers, or as you become part of project teams, whatever the case is, you are constantly being assessed on a daily, on the go. In some parlance, people will say you're constantly being judged. Now, people have argued and joked about the fact that decisions are usually taken, outside the round table or the boardroom. And this is one fact that supports everything I'm trying to say. So people have conversations about you. People talk about you. People assess you. The way you present, certain conversations at meetings, the way you carry yourself. Now, why is it important for you to have this mindset? If you don't appreciate the fact that this system exists, you won't find the need to be intentional about the type of connection. Now, one of the things I asked Lara prior to this session when we met is that what other word can we use for connection, right? So when I posted the flyer, someone jokingly said, are you people speaking to, love connection in the workplace? Are you people speaking to, political connection in the workplace? And it's important to clarify. So I did ask Lara, and we shared a few thoughts. Now, there are three things I'd like to share, not as a replacement of the word connection, but when you think about connection, these are things you should think about. Among all is positioning. Now, as we discuss how you create the right connection, what I'd like you to think about is positioning. And I know a lot of the things I'm saying now speaks to us as an individual. Positioning is very important in a system of justice or an order of justice. Positioning, we can dissect it and speak to it in different dimensions. We can speak to it in terms of the frequency that you're operating in your workplace. We can speak to it in terms of when people see you, what kind of attraction do they see? We can speak to it in a different dimension in terms of the language that you communicate, whether to your boss. So Lara used an example about toxicity. Now, I've worked with very interesting bosses, and to the glory of God, I thrived. If time permits, I will share some of these details, because sometimes you are in a job and it's intentional for that job not to be easy for you so that you can prepare yourself for where you are going to. Now, if you don't understand some of these facts, I think for a lot of people, they chicken out. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a standard for this. Nobody's saying that, if it starts affecting your mental well-being, you should stick your head out and keep going. I'm just saying that there's a type of language that you speak in the workplace, and I'm not talking literally by, your tribe. There's a language that you communicate, which will be the heart of my discussion this afternoon. I'm going to share three key connection or three key positioning that I believe I have tested, that I've seen work in people that I look up to within the HR space and business in general. And I'm hoping that it will come in handy, and you will wake up tomorrow and go to work and attend those meetings with a different approach entirely to position yourself to scale or to prosper or to be productive or to, you know, to accelerate your career or whatever it is you're pursuing. Now, I took time to explain this because sometimes we go into sessions and we get excited, but it doesn't translate into value for us. So what have I said so far? Understand the system of workplace or the marketplace. You need to have that understanding. It's not enough to be excited about getting jobs in Google or getting jobs at Microsoft. You need to understand, and this system varies from company to company. It's important that you understand that this system of multi-generation is not just about, you know, the age classification. There's also political interest. You will find that even in the workplace, there's a different group of people that if their social lifestyle align, they form that group. And sometimes these people are your line managers, your line manager's friend. They talk about you. So your appraiser, sometimes they are the fate of your appraisal, they are determined at those, you know, those drinking joints or those joints of networking where they talk about sports. For some people it's sport, for some people it's politics. What else have I said? I've also said that connection, another way to look at it is positioning. How do you position yourself in this system? How do you position yourself within this multi-generation? And I'm speaking the generation by age, I'm speaking generation by social or political interest, I'm speaking generation by gender, I'm speaking generation by grade. How do you position yourself? All right. Now, there are three things that I have put together here, and I shared a bit of it with Lara. And, you know, apart from all that introduction that Fumi gave, and thank you, you know, Fumi, for that. You know, sometimes when she was reading it, I'm like, who is this Mr. Franklin that Fumi is trying to describe? To the glory of God, everything that I've achieved throughout my career, I attribute it to God for so many reasons. I've been
Oh, wow. Seems we've lost. Okay. Franklin, you're back.
I'm here.
Okay. You're back.
Okay.
We lost a bit. Welcome back.
All right. Thanks. So,
all right. Someone's hand is up, but I'll leave it to quickly wrap up so that we can take my question.
All right, cool. Three things I'm going to speak to, right? The first thing you need for positioning in a system like this is your connection with God. Now, it's very important that you understand that your connection with God, and I say this very seriously. I've said to a couple of people, the earlier you understand that work is spiritual, the better for you. So work is not just what you do to earn a living. It is very spiritual, because on the other end of what you're doing lies someone's happiness, someone's money, someone's investment, someone's profitability, someone's wellness. So it is spiritual. And I think God has designed work in such a way that you do it well, it helps to, you know, impact the world in a different way. The way, especially because now we're discussing politics, Nigeria needs to realize that the transformation journey we need to embark on sits, 80% of that journey sits with your job and my job. So if a LASMA official understands that their role, as simple as it may look, as unimportant as may look in the scheme of things, it's very critical to someone who has been at work all day, just wants to get home, and that person creating easy access for that guy or that woman going home is something that is very important, and they take it very serious. it changes the dimension of things entirely within the workplace. So again, back to the point, and so I just wrap up quickly and then we can take questions. Your connection with God is the most paramount of your positioning in the workplace. Now hear me carefully. It's the most paramount. Everything you're doing about your work, you must ensure that you establish a connection with God. Now, what does this even mean? Because there's so many things you see in the workplace. There's so many things that goes on in the workplace. It is almost impossible for every time that you're being discussed or issues are being, discussed about you, your career, your work, you cannot possibly be there. Your sponsors cannot possibly be there. So it's important that you have someone who you have established certain connection with that can guide you in the right way, but more importantly, also create an edge around you. Now, I don't want to go into details, so you don't think, oh, why is he trying to spiritualize this conversation? Now, I have seen cases where people's career, irrespective of what they know, irrespective of how sound they are, first-class people at the point of interview, like Lara said, they are not just doing it for the purpose of the interview. Now, you may want to tie it to, spiritual and whatnot, but again, the point I'm making is you need to find your connection with your God. You need to go back and trace your step and ask questions and connect with your God and position yourself right with God. The second thing you need to do in terms of connection and positioning is positioning with your purpose. Now, I'm careful not to say your role or your job, because there's something that you have been created to solve in an organization. Everybody will have that purpose. Your connection with your purpose, and just in case you're wondering, why am I gliding along this tangent? You see, there's nobody in the workplace, even your worst leader or your bad boss, that will not understand the role of value. When you do a good job, when you focus on the reason why you have been hired and not get distracted, you are communicating something. There's a language you are speaking, and everybody understands the frequency of that language. That Franklin is a bad guy. I don't like Franklin, but I like his work. Franklin is very focused. Franklin understands why he's here. Franklin knows the reason he was hired. So your connection with your purpose is very important. See, and I'm saying this irrespective of whatever industry you're working. I'm saying this irrespective of whatever role you currently occupy. We've heard of stories of security people who do their jobs diligently. They understand the assignment. And what they get in turn is an elevated, salary increase or a promotion or some recognition that, see, it's important that you have a business in that organization that you're in. And everybody understands the connection of purpose. This guy understands why he's here. You understand your why. So trying to remember his name now, this guy that wrote the why, if you follow his YouTube videos, if you've read his books, you will understand that it's critical that amidst everything that is going on in your organization, your CEO has their job, your manager has their job, your director has the director, they have their job, but you need to create a very strong connection with your purpose. Okay, and then the final thing for me is the connection with your environment, and I'll stop there and see if there are more questions. I thought it was important to really establish this foundation. Your connection with the environment is very important. So when I started career, I used to do a lot of suit and tie, and then I changed jobs. I had to read the room. People have asked me questions around some of the changes that they've seen as I go along in my career. It's important to read your environment. The fact that you've worked in flour mills and the environment of flour mills is different, or the fact that you've worked in UAC or Guinness or Unilever, the environment will always change from one organization to another. So you need to establish that connection. And what does environment mean for a typical organization? The people are different. So if you do first name basis in an organization you're coming from, you're getting into a new environment. There are a lot of egbons and aunties that love to call themselves Mr. I don't know if I look that old. That's why Fumi was calling me Mr. Franklin, Mr. Franklin. but you need to recognize your environment. When you go to certain places, now, even in places where people go by first name basis, there are certain people there that are still not comfortable because they are old there. And they still want to be recognized somehow, even if you call them by first name basis. So you need to create connection and positioning with your environment. And it goes beyond just first name basis. I'm just using first name basis as an example. It may mean understanding the promotion system in that place. It may mean understanding what does value mean for that organization. If you work in a consulting firm, what value means in that environment may be different from what value means in an FMCG or in a bank. So you need to create that connection with your environment. Again, time will not permit, but I need to stop here to see if we can take questions. Thank you very much.
Wow. 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 Thank you so much, Franklin. That was really impactful. Do we have any comments from anyone in the house? Questions, thoughts? Are there any? Okay, so just a bit of summaries in the chat room. The question, okay, I don't see any question yet. Well, Franklin, I mean, you mentioned something that really caught my attention around sometimes your work isn't designed to be easy, it's to build in certain areas. And you talked about a story around working with interesting bosses. Is there any, I just wanted you to share a bit more light in terms of any particular story working with interesting bosses and how you've been able to use creating connections to maneuver your way in that relationship very quickly.
Okay. I have worked in 2 different places where I was not a favorite of the boss. And I know a lot of people may be...
Can you mute your phone? About that. Franklin, please go on.
Okay, so I was saying that I've worked in 2 different places, and this is a very unique opportunity for me to share this very quickly because a lot of us may find ourselves in that position today. Because sometimes we work in a place and we just want to be our boss's favorite. Now, it wasn't intentional, but I wasn't a favorite. So on one hand, this person came, you know how you move to a new organization, you bring your people and come. So again, I was there. I've also worked in other places where, okay, I got there. I wasn't really a fave. But I think for me, what happened differently was the fact that I have an understanding of why I was there, and I can argue, right, that I have that connection with God. So before I took that job, I had clear instructions of what to do. Again, it was a tough experience. I had every reason to quit, but every time I feel, I get to the wall, I go back to God, and I hear, stay here. Now, let me tell you something, and I don't know if I shared with you, Lara. Before I took one of the jobs, I went to the person that I was working with. I said, God sent me here to serve. And the person looked at me funny. I said, God sent me here to serve. And don't worry, I'm not trying to be spiritual. I'll do a good job for you. You can tell, in the first 3 months, I'll do a good job. But beyond that, service is not delivering on my KPIs. It's not fulfilling the obligation of my JD. It's doing the work way beyond. It's solving problems. So I said it to that person 2 weeks before I joined the organization. My people, 6 months down the line, I started questioning myself to say, am I sure I made the right decision? Because it was an interesting journey for me. It was an interesting journey. I went through a lot, but I understood the assignment. And that's the example I was speaking to when I said sometimes it's tough for a reason. But guess what? I had a conversation with a friend like Lara, and she said to me, when you are cooking something, you don't focus on the pots, you focus on the food that you're preparing. that what a lot of people have done with their career is once the pot gets very hot, they quickly remove it. But meanwhile, the food is not yet cooked. So let me look at beans now. Okay, beans takes longer time. So you are touching the pot. You're not checking the beans if the beans has been properly cooked so that you can feast on it. And she said to me, you need to decide whether you want a good meal or you want to save your pot. I got the message. I decided to go through the journey. It was tough. It wasn't easy, but I had counsel again, which is why it's important to create that connection with God. So for me, if anything, if I had left that job, ladies and gentlemen, I would not be the CHRO today. I promise you. If I left that job, I would not be the CHRO today. So again, I just leave it at that. But sometimes you need to test if God is building you for the future. Because where you are going up there, it's not going to be any less better. You will still face the things. So it's about really developing those capabilities that you will need. And I realized today why I went through what I went through, because now I'm where I am today. And it's easy for me to navigate some of those challenges.
Wow. That was very, very powerful. Wow. That was very powerful. Thank you so much, Franklin, for sharing your story. When you talk about having the right kind of association around you, it's also very important, because I believe that in the place of connection as well, you connect with like minds, you connect with people who are also as purposeful as you are. And it's part of one of the things that's really required for us as we grow in our career. Thank you. So I have a question here. Franklin spoke about positioning and language. I would like him to throw more light on that.
Okay, it would be nice to give context to your question, because again, it can be broad. So let me attempt to give you an example. Everything you do and don't do, you're communicating something to your peers. So when you're given a task to do, the way you do it is a language you're speaking. The way you exude professional confidence is a language about your brand. So language can cut across so many things. Now, what we need to know is that every day we go to work, we are communicating something to our peers, to the different generation that exists. So if you have a specific context that you want us to speak to, I'm very happy to, but on a general note, language, the type of language you communicate obviously position you in terms of, you know, whether or not you are ready for bigger responsibility, or you are ready for, or you're just an average, you know, employee, or you're an hypo, or you're an hyper, whichever case is. So you constantly have a particular language you speak. A lot of people don't know, so they just do things and they are not consistent. Another word to use to replace language may be your brand. What you are projecting for people to see. I think that's the best way. But again, I'm not sure who asked the question. If you want us to speak to specifics, I'm very happy to. So maybe to wrap up, one of the things I try to do and share with my close circle is understanding that you are not allowed to just do anything in the workplace, because people are watching. Your colleagues are watching. Your direct reports are watching. You are communicating something to them and they are forming an opinion about you. Every time they talk about you, and I'm going to take a random name, Tiwalade, for example. Every time people talk about Tiwalade, what do they see if they don't talk about your name? That's the language you have been communicating over the period you have been working in that place. So to live in that consciousness, knowing that every time you come late to work, you are communicating something about yourself. But there's another spin to it. Now, I'm sorry, I'm going to go spiritual. Someone said to me that the workplace is so complex, that the workplace is so spiritual, that you need to understand the place of prayer and speaking in tongues. Again, I'm sorry, I'm going spiritual. That there are certain battles you can't fight by your PowerPoint and framework. There are certain things you cannot do by just doing a good job, because there are principalities in the workplace. You need to understand that. And here's the interesting thing. Those principalities are not even your enemies. They are perhaps your close friends and people who don't want you to advance in career more than them. So sometimes the language is not just physical. It's not just you coming to work. It's not just you putting your framework together. It's you waking up in the morning and taking, if you're Islam or you're Christian, and making prayers over some of the things. I mean, how do you think about solving retention and engagement problem in an era where employee experience and expectation has heightened and people are asking for the unimaginable? So sometimes to achieve the right index that you need for your organization to thrive, you sometimes need to change the language from physical to spiritual. Again, that's why I said, if you put it in context, I will know how to approach it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Franklin. I align with you when you spoke about language also meaning brand. I remember last week. So I was chatting with a friend who is the manager. She's the team lead in her department, and we were just talking randomly about her team and looking at opportunities for promotion for maybe one or two of them. And then there was a particular member of her team that I called and said, "Oh, this is a great guy. What do you think? I think he should be positioned for the next level of promotion." She said no. And I'm like, "Okay, why?" She said, "Well, he's very approachable, he's very friendly, he goes around. But when it comes to work, he's very dodgy. He dodges work, he's lazy, he's laid back." And immediately she said that, I could relate with him, because there were a couple of times that I've also had to call him for his assistance. And every time it was one excuse or the other, And immediately she said it. I immediately aligned with her and said, that's true. I've also had one or two experience. And that formed the basis of his brand at that moment. Good guy, but we're talking about promotion. And based on how we perceived him from his behavior, we just said, no, he's not qualified for that promotion we're talking about. And like you rightly said, people are watching us from the way we carry ourselves, from the way we do our job. Are we just there just to do our job the way we want it, or we're ready to put in the extra in how we do our job? So I totally align with that. Still talking about language, across the multi-generation that we have in the workplace, people mindset, beliefs differs. People's way of thinking, of doing things differs. And where we have certain generation who believe in, I have to tell you to do this. And there is another generation that feels, you don't have to sit on me to monitor me to do this. Just what are my deliverables? Let me go and do it from anywhere I want to. If it's on the mango tree, it's none of your business. I would deliver it. But yet you have a generation where they want to see you, they want to know what you're doing. And based on the different language styles that we have in the workplace, how can connection really help foster that healthy relationship where everyone can thrive and people don't feel, oh, I have a Gen Z in my department that frustrates me. Oh, I have a baby boomer in my department that is on my neck. He's always on my neck. How can we use connection to foster a healthy work relationship in the workplace? I mean, given the three pillars that you also shared.
Okay. We've come to, I mean, the world of work is still evolving, so we don't even know what changes are coming. But, speaking to where we are today, irrespective of the generation or diversity, I think one thing is very constant. And that's the connection of trust. Quite frankly, people, there's no generation that does not understand the trust element. Now, you will notice that the older people don't want to be, I'm just checking to see if there are no older people here. Just checking. Sometimes these people don't want to be out of jobs. And it's a hard truth, right? And you are the young guy blazing and blooming, and you're just getting all the things right. And the reason why they push back sometimes may not be because they don't like you. It may just be job security for them. And so you need to understand that to gain such people's trust, you need to give them that comfort, right? And I need us to listen very carefully. Your job, working with your boss, and I've heard this a couple of times, is to make your boss shine, is actually to make your boss secure his job, not to try to outshine your boss to get your boss's job. That would be a misplacement of priority, because your time will come and there'll be another Jen, I don't know what Jen, who would also be working with you, and you will not also want that person to be a risk to your job. So again, that conversation aside, I think trust is very important, and it's both ways. For those who are also the older generation guys, you also want to earn the trust of your Gen Z or Gen X. And for them, trust does not mean job security. And that's the flip side. You need to understand that they're not interested in job security. They want what they want. Their security, unfortunately, will vary from one Gen Z to another. That's the complexity of this Gen Z conversation. So I have seen Gen Zs with baby boomer mindset because of how they were raised. I have seen Gen Z with Gen X mindset, Gen Y mindset. So you need to understand what is the element of trust. How do I earn this person's trust? So to make work progress as it should, you need to first, whether you are the younger generation, earn the trust of your older boss, which is letting this person know that I'm here to serve you. There's nothing for you to be worried about. I'm not going to go and talk about you behind my colleagues. So for me, Lara, the way I would answer it is build trust, earn trust.
Wow. Thank you so much. Set it on. Thank you. Okay, do we have any questions from our participants? Please, you can use the raise hand button and unmute to ask your questions, or you can drop your, okay, I'm checking the chat box. Thank you so much, Dekweju Makinde. Understanding the assignments. Okay, Demola, do you have your hand up or you're clapping? Demola Obasan Kayode, please go ahead, unmute.
Okay,
Share the question. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you
Yes,
are.
you are.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Lara, you said something about having bosses that over around. I'm someone who I'm a Gen, I think Gen Y. My generation is Gen Y. So, but I like Mr. Frank said just now, like some generation have a lower generation mindset. I'm one. I'm one such. I have a Gen Z mindset. I'm Gen Y. So I'm not asking, how do I work around working with someone that hovers around you? Because I just know that I can deliver. Give me a job to do, I deliver. But don't now stay on me. I can stay all night on the job, but the minute you stay around me, I'll be so much bored that what I can deliver in 2 days, in a day, I'll deliver it in a week. But I don't like someone choking me up. Just tell me what to do. Give me a time. Tell me to do it within 2 hours. Even though I can do it, I should do it within 4 hours. Tell me to do it within 1 hour. I'll get it done because I have what to deliver. So how do I, as someone, work around such a time, such a boss?
Okay, thank you, Demola, for that question. Frankly, your thoughts first, and I'll add my.
Okay, very interesting perspective, Demola. I'm not sure how this will hit some people, but I'll just say it. Work sometimes, or most times, it's not about how you feel. So you don't determine how the work is done. And I think what has come in the way of value for a lot of people is emotions. Your job is to get the job done. Focus on that. Now, a lot of times we want to then determine, and that's feelings, right? How the job gets done. It should be done my way. It should not be my boss's way. And those emotions get in the way of work. Now, if we had time, I would speak a lot about how people need to separate emotions. You see, a lot of people are not doing well in their career today because there's a lot of emotions in their job, a lot of it. So your boss asks you to do a job. Your role is to get that job done. If your boss decides to come and, sleep beside you or give you that, and again, sometimes it takes me back to my point around trust. If over time the person can trust you and then give you that freedom, but your business, and this may not just be peculiar to Demola alone, your business people is to do the job. Forget about how, who is breathing on you or who is coming on you. Sometimes it's not you, right? It may be that person's insecurity. Don't pay attention to it. It may be distraction for you. Just focus on doing your job. Don't play feelings. The moment you see that feeling is setting in, and feeling may be, oh, this is not how I want this job being done. No. Just get the job done, and every other thing will fall in place. Again, Lara, over to you, Coach Lara.
Yeah, you said it all. Thank you so much, Franklin, for your input. You said it all. For me, it's also managing your own expectation. For instance, if you have a boss who would like to breathe over you to get the job done, and honestly, for you, it's not your best way of working. One, I think you also need to try and understand your boss first in terms of the how they want you to deliver on that job and build their trust. Like Franklin said, it might take a while, but build their trust. So for instance, we're given a certain timeline to complete your task, and you're able to do it before that timeline, your boss is excited. Another task, you're also able to do it before the timeline is excited. And he begins to see you as someone that he doesn't have to monitor or breathe upon to get the job done. So focus on your job, manage your expectations and your emotions, and build that trust within time. I hope we've been able to answer your question, Demola. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Debbie Bankole, you have your hand up very quickly. Can you go ahead?
Thank you, Coach Lara, and thank you, Franklin. Okay, so talking about trust, I hope I'm audible enough.
Loud and clear.
Okay, so talking about trust, you know that we're human beings. If somehow at some point you have given your trust to somebody to do something, and then you're not hovering around the person to do this particular thing, but somehow the person messed it up and you had to do it yourself, how then do you trust that person again? Now we're talking about this multi-generational issues. There's, let me tell a story around this. There was at a point that my boss gave some employees some tasks to do, but somehow, maybe because they are Gen Zs, they messed it up. They didn't arrive at they didn't give output at the right time. So he had to give it to other people to do. And now when it comes to working from home, he's finding it very difficult to trust these people while they work from home. He says, okay, I'm allowing them to work from home while they're even in the office. They're not delivering on the job. How do I trust them to do it from home? So now it is like an issue for me. I don't know how to get him to understand that, yes, we make mistakes sometimes. And these people, we can actually give them a second chance. They can thrive and do what we want them to do. So that's my question. How do you get to trust somebody that you have trusted before and has messed you up? Thank you.
Next question, Debbie. Franklin, over to you for your thoughts, and I'll add mine.
Okay, this is a tough one because it has a different dimension. Um, and I would really tread softly on this one, because trust is not to be wasted, right? The first thing I would say is sometimes it's important to investigate the trust element, and I'm speaking directly to, why the person didn't do well in the first place. Have a conversation. So there are a lot of times we build opinions without getting the facts. So I would really counsel that, we do have a conversation and have those conversations based on real data points. So say, does this person even have the capability? So why did this person mess up in the first place? Is it a capability issue? Or is it that the person is just a mischievous person? I have heard of direct reports who intentionally want to mess their boss up. I've heard about it, which is why I said trust is not to be wasted. You cannot try to trust someone who is determined to be mischievous, someone who is on a journey to pull you down. That would be, wasting your trust, which is why it's important to investigate before making another attempt to try to trust. Now, if it's a genuine case of the person is willing but don't have the right capability, then I think you can then be on a journey. I have traveled that journey with people that I've worked with who were patient with me, to evolve. And I have also, I think, extended that same gesture to people that are also working with me. So to throw trust again at someone who messed you up, you need to investigate, my view, before you try to trust again. Because again, in the workplace, there are very interesting personalities, and you just need to be sensitive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Franklin. I mean, you said it all. Second chances for me comes from the place of coming up as someone who's willing to learn and someone who is willing to improve and be a better version of yourself at work. I mean, I've also had instances where I haven't met expectations with regards to certain areas of my job. And I'm someone who reflects a lot, I think. I mean, I introspect. And I know I haven't given it my best. What I would do is say to myself, what do I need to do to improve in this area? And over time, I realized that when I had to do that same work again, I did it a lot better. When I had to manage that certain task, I did it a lot better. And I was courageous enough to go and have a conversation with my line manager to ask, what do you think? I don't feel that I did what I was expected to do very well, but I've come back and these were my thoughts and these were the improvements that I have. So what I would encourage you, Debbie, is in giving second chances to building trust is to have that conversation. Say, okay, I own up, this didn't work out well. These were the gaps that I identified from the investigation Franklin mentioned, maybe due to capability or wrong intentions or lack of clarity. Sometimes it could simply be lack of clarity of the outcome that is expected for that role. And once you have that conversation, make a commitment. Okay, I'm ready to work on this journey to improve myself, to build the right skills and capabilities. For some people, it might just be improving on your reporting skills, or improving your PowerPoint presentation skills, or improving your Excel skills. It could be anything. But own up, have that conversation, make that commitment. Because I say to people, it is when you make the commitment that you bring the value on the table to identify the gap and be willing to make commitment to close that gap. And for me, that is where self-leadership comes through. A lot of people don't own up to their flaws or to their shortcomings, it's easier for us to point our fingers to the other people, but we don't come to that place where, from a place of self-leadership and courage, to identify gaps and make commitment to improve it. And honestly, if you have those conversations with your line manager, it gives you that, it helps you build that trust all over again, from the initial mistrust experience that might have happened. Those would be my addition to Franklin's great points. Wow. Thank you so much. One last question from Dr. Esther. We have Dr. Esther Molly in the house. I'll read it very quickly and then hand over to our HR madam to wrap it up. So very quickly, question from Esther. Trust is really fundamental to connection. But trusting management or leadership has never been a straight line for most junior employees, but they desire connections. How can this work? Frankly, did you get that?
No, it was breaking out, and I was trying to look for the question so I can just check.
Okay, so it was a direct DM. It was direct DM, but I'll read it out again. Trust is really fundamental to connections, but trusting management or leadership has never been a straight line for most junior employees, but they desire connection. How can this work?
Okay. I believe this is a lot more an organizational question, and the elements will vary from company to company. I think it's a major issue for companies in Nigeria and maybe in Africa, you may argue. A lot of people don't trust the organization that they work for. I think it's a leadership conversation, right? I was speaking to someone just this afternoon before the session, and I was saying to the guy, I love my organization. It would really be a struggle for me to leave where I work, and it's not because there are no challenges. Don't get me wrong, but to have a management and a leadership that listens, and management and leadership committed to fulfilling their own part of the deal. It's not something you find around. So I would say it's a way we need to, it's a journey we need to start and start driving campaigns and culture that will hold leadership accountable. We're very far from it, so it's a tough one. The easiest way to answer it is, at different levels, we are management to the different people that we lead. The question is, are we living up to the commitment we made at some point? So Lara probably she will be the management for quite a number of people. And there are things within her circle of influence. Is she living up to it? So before we think about management as the CEO and whatnot, we are management at our different levels. When we make commitments that are within our control or circle of influence, are we keeping to those things? When we say to people, when you deliver on XYZ, I will make this happen for you, are we keeping to it? So that's the one we can control now. And my counsel will be, for as many people who are occupying those management positions on this call, you have a duty call to ensure that you build that culture of trust within your space and hopefully ultimately within your organization.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you, Franklin, for your response. Dr. Esther has responded. Loving Franklin's approach to my question, it is indeed a leadership conversation, affects people and performance. And like you rightly said, within our own circle of influence, we are all management in quotes. How are we leading and creating the right connections with people that we work with so that we can have a healthy relationship and love the organization that we work for. Like you rightly said, you love your organization because you have leadership that listens. And I also love my organization because I have leadership as well that listens. So if we all have leaders who understand the rights, the need to have the right culture to create the right connection, people will love their organization. When people think of their work on Monday, today, Sunday evening, they will be excited. When people wake up on Monday, they will be excited as well. I have Tayo's hand up. Tayo, in 2 minutes, can we have your comments or your question? We have to start.
Okay, thank you, Lara. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Okay, so sorry, I joined a bit late due to technical glitches, but I love the conversation towards the latter part of the section, and coupled with the question that was asked and the responses given. I just want to quickly add something to Franklin and Lara's responses. This practically happens with me and my team when we are talking about trust. In 2021, some of my team members, yes, doing exceedingly well, somebody that, I am proud in, doing well. And she came to me about promotion. I said, Toby, her name is Toby. I said, Toby, yes, you are doing exceedingly well, but I still require ABC thing for you to be mature to hand this promotion. She was saying that, is it that, when you talk about circle of influence, self-leadership, before we begin to talk, like Franklin said, before we begin to talk about the MDC, talk about the ED, within your circle of influence, can your team trust you? Have you been able to demonstrate to them, making a commitment, and you see it come to pass? You follow it through.
Sorry, it's just me. I can't hear him anymore.
Hi, we can't hear you again. Guess your network. Tayo, we can't hear you again. Okay, unfortunately, we're unable to hear Tayo. So, Tayo, if you can hear us, please, you might have to disconnect and quickly join back or type in your comments in the chat box. So sorry, we can't hear you. Okay. Wow, it's really been an interesting session. Thank you so much, Franklin. I think on this note, we invite Fumi.
Sorry, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Hello? So, like as I was saying, 2022, that I promised her.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, please.
So in 2022,
yeah.
I eventually promoted her, and when the promotion list came, she saw her name and she came to me to have a personal conversation and said to me that she never believed what I said in 2021, I would do just that in 2022. So that made her now, her thought towards, trust about who she's working with will have grown geometrically. And that is the way it begins with every other person. If you make a commitment, before you begin to accuse the general organization and the CEO, from your own level, when you make a commitment, you come to fulfill that, so that the level of trust can begin to radiate and move, geometrically in that organization. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your life experience in that regard. So before Fumi comes up for the recap and call to action, we'd like to get Franklin's final comment to everyone today. Franklin, over to you.
All right, thanks, Lara, and I'll be very quick. We have a situation in Nigeria. that is calling to question our diligence and service to work. We have a situation in our organizations. Now, if you hear the things coming out of a lot of organizations, you're wondering, we live in a country where there's a lot of unemployment. People are eager to get jobs, but a lot of people are not ready to work. People want to get jobs. People want to work in Google, the big organization. People want to earn big money, but a lot of people are not ready to do the work. Now, don't let anybody deceive you. Work is not easy. It's not. I like the way Pastor Poju put it. Sometimes these principles is only when you test them, you can see that it truly works. And he said something that the attitude of a lot of employees today is that work is something that you do for a while and rest. But that's a wrong mindset. That work is actually a part of life. So life is incomplete without work. So it's not something you do for a while. Yes, there are holidays and vacation. So you can't separate work from your life. So your life is actually work. So you keep going and keep creating and keep adding value. And of course, you have your time where you then, take some time out to rest, but you are still in that work mode. All right. Now, why am I saying this? And why do I want to end on this note? Is that a lot of people need to, we need a different attitude to work. We need a different attitude to work. So if things are failing within your space, the question is, whose job is it to get it done? So it's a time where we need to reevaluate ourselves. The question I've been asking a few people that are close to me today is that if there's traffic if the traffic light is not working, whose job is it to make sure that traffic light is working? You need to ask yourself that question to say, if something is not working in your team, in your organization, which of those things are, I don't want to use the word KPI or job description, so it doesn't reduce the conversation. What are you responsible for that is not working in Nigeria, in your organization today? So again, we are hoping for a better result, but there's what you can do where you sit within your space. My ask today is, whatever your job is, do it well. I used to work for a lady called Dolakwa, and this will hit you differently, guys. Maybe speaking to Omotayo's question, Dolakwa will say to me that, Franklin, know that God is always watching, right? And again, I don't mean to be spiritual. So your organization, it is not the responsibility of your organization to promote you, actually. So if Toby is on this call, I would say to Toby, don't stop doing the work because you want Diageo or Flour Mills or InterSwitch to promote you. That's a wrong attitude. Because work is work, work is life. And the person that rewards good work, it's not your organization. It's God, actually. And so if your organization fails to recognize the work you have put in, and that's why it won't matter if your boss is not recognizing your effort, just do your work. Someday, another organization will reward you. And that's God saying to you, I've seen your work for me. I've seen your work, Lara, and I'm here to reward you. All right. Thank you very much. I had a good conversation, Lara. Thank you for the opportunity.
Wow, wow, wow. This is really packed. And I know that we just have, because we've overshot our time, and we just have a couple of minutes to wrap up and, bid ourselves goodbye. But just before we go, somebody has asked a very personal question. And while I understand that we don't have enough time to answer them here, I would really love for us to reach out to them outside of this forum and, have that conversation with them. Let me see if I can screenshot or maybe just quickly say, so somebody is suspecting that there's foul play at work, it's like their role has been decentralized, the structure has been flattened, even people reporting to them no longer reporting to them and things like that. And I guess they are in a place where they feel dejected and unhappy at work, and they're trying to figure out, should they leave this organization, and things like that. Lara, please, can you take note of the person so that, between you and Franklin, you can, do some sort of coaching. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Franklin Ali. I mean, you said this was really packed. You said quite a number of things, but for me, what jumped at me during this session, and I did take down a couple of notes. I'm sure I won't be able to capture everything because my head was steam was just coming out everywhere from things I was hearing. The first thing that jumped at me, and I think even as an HR professional, I did not even see it that way, that this is part of diversity at work. You did mention it being a generational diversity. I've never considered it that way, but it is very important for us to pay attention to it. And you wanted us to use another word for connection. You talked about positioning, and you kept on hammering on the fact that work is very spiritual, but I guess this is for people who are religious or spiritual. So if you're spiritual, please take it that way. And I do agree, because I tell people that the workplace is a war zone, and so you have to fight it on your knees, really, to be honest. You say the importance and the place of trust. And like somebody said in the comment section, trust is both ways. So how do we, somebody asked a question about how do we trust somebody who's messed up work in the past that we gave to them? And we live in a world where everybody wants to work from home, unsupervised and things like that. And, Coach Lara and Franklin came in to say, you have to, go back to the beginning, investigate what happened and try and build that trust again. So very, very important. You also mentioned the fact that even Gen Zs have varying mindsets. So you can have a Gen Z that has the mindset of a baby boomer. Is that what they call? For some reason, just flew out of my head. I think, yeah, baby boomer, or that has the mindset of a Gen X or a Gen Y, depending on their background, their upbringing, their exposure, and things like that. And I really, really, on behalf of my HR story, I really want to thank you, Mr. Franklin and Ali, for spending your Sunday afternoon with us and giving us such an engaging and exciting conversation. Thank you very much, Coach Lara Yeku, for this platform, for convening this platform and, helping us to see, even the HR world in different angles. I just want to end by saying that there is my HR storybook that was written by Coach Lara Yeku, and you can get your copy at okadabooks.com/my HR story. I recommend it for everybody. If you can, right after this session, order one online, or if you want to reach out directly, you can WhatsApp this number 0816-548-5008. I'll call that again. WhatsApp 0816-548-5008. And that would be the WhatsApp number to reach out to. Of course, thank you very much, Omofayoke Emmanuel Sylvester, for helping us type it out. Of course, let's keep the conversations going. I did put the links for Coach Lara Yeku and for Mr. Franklin Ali. Connect with them across their social media platforms, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook. Let's keep the conversations going. I think maybe for the next one, Coach Lara, really, we should have a hashtag and we should be tweeting about, so we also create awareness about this. So connect, even with people in the audience here. Connect with everybody. Let's keep the conversations going. Let's be there for one another, and create support. Final words, Coach Lara Yeku, and then we can all disperse and enjoy the rest of our weekend.
Thank you so much, HR Madam. Thank you, Franklin. Thank you, everyone who decided to spend part of their Sunday evening or whatever time you are, depending on your location with us today. I'm deeply, deeply grateful. For me, it's really not about us calling out all the experiences, but it's more around how do we reflect, how do we get the principles that have worked for other people, and how do we use it to design our own stories. The whole goal is for us to listen to real life issues, no PowerPoint, but for us to learn from one another's stories and experiences. Because I always say to people that your story is a gift. God has made you go through a particular experience as a gift for the world so that you can impact the world, you can help someone else go through that journey. And I believe that from the conversations we've had today, Franklin's story has been a gift to us. All the contributors, everyone who also asked questions have equally gifted us their stories from their question. And I can only just say thank you to everyone. It's really been an exciting and amazing time with everyone. Anita, Ann, Augusta, Ayobami, Beatrice, Chidima, Chimeka, Debbie, Demola, Diola, Dorothy, Dr. Esther, Elizabeth, Mrs. P, Eniton Peters, Eunice, Fatima, Femi, FSF. I mean, I can't call everyone on this call, but I just want to say I appreciate you all for taking out your time to be with us today. Pa, Peter Deyeri, Tinu, and everyone, God bless you. For me, what would be most impactful is the fact that, like Franklin said, tomorrow, when we show up in our workplaces, we show up as a renewed and a better version of ourselves from the learnings and the principles that we have learned today. Thank you so much, and let's continue to make our world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess this is where